Alright, this video is going to continue our discussion about viruses. We're going to look a little deeper into them. We're going to start by dividing them into two different groups. So there are two different types of viruses. There are active viruses and hidden viruses. Active viruses are going to take over the cell right away, and you'll start experiencing symptoms of them pretty much as soon as the cells get taken over. Hidden viruses, on the other hand, are a bit more scary if you get one. They kind of lie dormant for a period of time before they start to act. In this dormant state, they will be taking over a cell, but you will not experience any symptoms. This could last for days, weeks, or even up to years. So there are two types, active and hidden. Active viruses, just for some examples, is your common cold or your flu. Hidden viruses you can think of as HIV, which is the virus that leads to AIDS, or cold sores. If you ever get cold sores around your mouth, that virus has been in you for a while. It just so happens to stop being hidden and move out of that dormant stage and start reacting, and that's when the sore forms around your mouth. Eventually it'll go away, and then years later you might get another one, but it might be even from the same cold sore virus. It was just laying hidden inside your cells. Your structure of a virus is a pretty simple structure. It is a basic non-living entity. So we do have two parts that we need to be concerned with. We have a protein coat. This is the outer shell you can think of that protects our virus. And we also have an inner core, and this inner core is going to be made up of genetic material. A lot of times that's going to be an RNA strand, in some cases even a DNA strand. So that is genetic material. Your virus is going to invade your host cell because remember it does have a parasitic host relationship. So in order for this to happen is your host cell has to contain unique proteins that match up with unique proteins that are found on the virus's coat. These proteins are called antigens, and there's kind of a lock and key method going on here. So your virus might have the key, and then the lock would fit into the certain cell. This is a specific relationship, and therefore viruses will only attack certain cells with these antigens. Here's a little illustration to help that out. We do have our protein coat around our virus, and you can see it has these antigens that are sticking out of it. On the other hand, our cell, our host's membrane, has antigens that are pretty much the opposite of it, kind of like the lock and key. And these will hook into each other, and therefore the virus will be able to attach to the cell. And once it's attached to the cell, it can begin its process. What viruses want to do is they want to multiply. That's the only thing they do. They don't eat, they don't sleep, they just multiply. Again, they're not living things, so they don't need all the characteristics and needs of living things. But they do need to multiply. Apparently that's what they do. So once inside the cell, the virus's genetics material is going to be taking over. It's going to be hijacking, very much like a computer virus can hijack your computer. This genetic material holds instructions. On these instructions, it will tell the cell what to do. So instead of the cell doing the normal cell stuff that its original genetic material wants to do, it will do what the virus wants it to do. Basically, the virus is just going to say, hey, let's make more viruses. So the cell is going to take this genetic material, it's going to start processing the proteins that are needed to build the protein coat, and it's going to start copying it. And eventually, the protein coat and that genetic material are going to combine inside that cell until you get a virus. Viruses are going to continue to multiply and fill up that cell until that cell simply can't hold any more, and then the cell will burst open and throw all the viruses that it made out into whatever environment that cell was in. Maybe your bloodstream, maybe your body, maybe it was in some other organism or plant. Here's a little graphic of what's going on. So we can start with graphic A here. And we have our virus with its protein coat and its DNA or genetic material attached to our cell, which will be this blue cylindrical oval thing. As we move on to step B, it's going to take its genetic material and it's going to inject it into that cell. that genetic material is going to combine with the host cell's genetic material and start telling the host cell to make those protein coats and copy the genetic material. Eventually, those protein coats and genetic material combine into viruses. So now the cell is starting to fill up with viruses. Once this cell fills all the way up with viruses, it can't hold it anymore. It bursts open and throws viruses everywhere. This is same for both active and hidden viruses. However, there will be a break between stage B and C here for a hidden virus, where it would be just, okay, it's a dormant stage. The cell's just going to do what the cell normally does. It's still going to have the virus's genetic material in there, but it's not going to be reading it and doing what the virus wants it to do until it stops being hidden and it activates, which is pretty much a time release, and then it will pick up on step C and go through the rest.